Hello friends, in today's video we're going to build out this website design UI, and I'm going to take you through the whole process of how to build this in Figma. If you haven't heard of me before, I'm Adrian from Australia. I do videos around design and development, so if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe, and we're just going to jump straight into it. To create our web design UI, we're going to be using a tool called Figma, and it's free, so anyone can get started. Just head over to figma.com and create an account, and you can create a canvas. What we're going to do before we get started though, is grab an image, and this is the image we'll be structuring the home page against. And what I usually like to do when I'm grabbing an image is just have a look at what's trending right now. And if we take a look at the home page, we have quite a few different examples, but I actually like this example here with the food, and just seeing this makes me hungry. So I'm going to use this as the example image that we're going to do for our website. So maybe this can be for a restaurant or maybe something like that, but this gets us started. I'm going to select to download it just here at the top right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this straight into our canvas. Now I've already got a canvas open over here, but if you don't have one, you can do that through Figma by creating a new one, selecting frame, and then selecting the desktop over here. I'm going to copy this image and paste it here into our canvas. And as we paste it in, we'll see that it might be a little bit too big. That's okay though. So what I'm going to do is just resize it a little bit here, and we're going to place this straight into the frame. Now, at this moment in time, we don't really have a menu or a logo or anything like that. We just have this large image. I'm going to span it across the whole page, but it is a little bit too big. And what we might do is create a square around it, maybe halfway through with a linear gradient. And a linear gradient allows us to do a number of things. One of the things I like to do is actually pull it in from the left and the right, and we can actually blend it in with a color. So in this case, I've noticed the main two colors that get used a lot on this page are greens and reds. And I like the idea of the green color because it's nice and healthy looking, and I think it gives a nice blend to this website. I'm going to use the color tool here, and I'm going to grab a shade of the green here straight from the plant, just so that it's consistent with our design. And I'm going to pull this over to the left. I'm going to grab that same color here from the right, but I'm going to set the opacity here to be 0%, and that way we get that nice blend. Now this hero slider image here for our homepage, it's still a little bit too big, so I'm going to actually resize it down just a tad, and I'm going to move it down a little bit as well. Now what we can do is that because of this linear gradient, we can create another square here, which will just be that green color. And since the linear gradient sort of blends into there, it automatically looks like it flows into a whole position here. But this gets us started for that linear gradient. There's another way we can do this too. Instead of having a strong green, we could actually perform a linear gradient here to a white color. That way it looks like the food is sort of blending out. And personally, I think that looks a little bit better. We can actually make the linear gradient just a little bit bigger, and we can pull in this section here from the right just to be a little bit lower as well. Now what we can do is fill out a core message for this slider. Now what I'm thinking is maybe creating a big target saying fine dining. I'm going to make this a lot bigger, maybe something like 114 pixels, maybe 96. And the other thing I'm going to do is set this to have a really thin font. The reason is because in fine dining, or when you're doing a big message in general on sliders, you don't need them to be too big because they're quite readable already. We can also update the color for this. So I'm going to set it as a dark green, and we can put a small title or subtitle underneath this. So in this case, I might put in the best burgers in the West. This font size, we're going to reduce this down quite a lot more, just so it sits just behind or underneath our fine dining text. But since it's smaller, we're also going to have to make it a little bit heavier. I might even update the color a little bit to be maybe this strong orange, so it blends in with the images that we're using. Let's make sure that this is nice and centered. And the only thing this is now also missing is maybe a small call to action. Now for our call to action, I'd like to have a button for that. And most likely if this is a website for maybe a restaurant or something like that, what the call to action could be is maybe something like a book reservation or something like that. What I might do is just have a look at which colors here work for that. Sometimes I would use the color here for the title, but in this case I feel like it's almost too heavy and it's drawing attention away from the image itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a very light shade of this green, but give it a bit of a gray. And maybe we could even do an outline, like we could do a white color here and we could add an outline. And this outline could be that dark gray. This dark green, and that might work a little bit better. So actually let's apply that, and we can give the background maybe a slight opacity of 50%. So I think that looks much better there. We can give it a border radius here of maybe 15 pixels, or maybe even say 40 pixels. So it's got a nice little curve here, almost like a half circle. And then let's add some text in there. So in this case, I'm just going to move it here and copy this description text. And I'll type in book reservation. Or book a table. That might work better. And let's put in maybe a smaller font size here. Not too small, just enough so that it fits in nicely. And we'll update the color here to be that strong, dark primary green color that we're using mostly in our titles here. I'm going to reduce the width of the button just so that it fits in with our text. So what you want to do with text is you want to have about 1 EM from the top and about 2 EM from the left. And that gives it enough padding to breathe, essentially. Now that we've got our hero slider here done, let's have a look at creating a menu. There's a number of ways we can do a menu and navigation in general. We could pull in the primary color over here that we're using and just put in a logo and a menu at the top. Or we could actually let it float here at the top right, just like this. Or we could even have a really soft menu, which doesn't really have an outline, but the active menu has a primary color as the background. And I think that might look the best in this case. I'm going to move everything up just a little bit so that it takes effect. And we're going to align it here with the title as well. So we'll have our home button. I'm going to copy this across and we'll do maybe a menu on the right here. And for this menu, I might just have the green color. Let's do another thing here, such as book table, and then finally contact us. And that should be enough for the menu for the time being. We'll give it about 30 pixels of spacing between each item here. And finally, we'll have a little logo here. Now, I'm not too sure what we're going to use for the logos, but what I usually like to do when I'm just creating up a website is just go to Font Awesome and type in something about this area. So in this case, it's food. So I'm just going to pull in these utensils here. And we're going to download this SVG from Font Awesome and place this in here as the logo. It doesn't have to be anything special, and later on we can change this, but at least this gets us started. And we can put in maybe a nice title here, something like the name of the company. So maybe we'll just put in fine.com or fine food. Fine food should be a good name there. Let's make this a little bit bigger in terms of the font weight, and let's make the logo a little bit smaller so that it's in line here. And the only other thing we could do here is make sure that we're actually adhering to some sort of a column design. Right now, I'm just sort of doing this by eye, and this is sort of like a 4-column design with 1 column here and 3 columns there. But realistically, we can apply grids here on this whole frame. So I'm going to select, let's see, outline grids. I'm going to do columns here, and I might do 12 columns for our design. Since it's a full screen design, I'm not going to worry about creating a max width, but this should be enough to get us started. The only other thing I'm going to do is maybe reduce the opacity here to about 3%. I don't want to overdo the essential columns here, because otherwise sometimes they get in way of the actual design itself. So now that we have this, let's take a look at the logo. We'll just fit this in here at the 3rd column, and here this one will be on about the 6th column, and everything else seems to be aligned quite well there. The next thing I might want to do is some call to action. So let's actually create one over here. I'm going to create one which is about 3 columns, and I'm going to copy this across over here so that we have 1, 2, and 3 of them. And let's actually remove our column overview here. And what I want to be able to do is maybe have a nice image for each one of these with maybe some text underneath too. So I might copy over this fine dining text, and let's do something like seafood, and we'll put this in a smaller size here, and we'll give it a slightly stronger weight, and let's put in menu, and then let's actually make it a little bit smaller, maybe 36 pixels in font size. And here we can grab maybe a seafood image. So over here in Unsplash, let's go seafood, and let's grab a nice image for that. Now I think I might grab this one here with the shellfish, and let's take a quick look at that. I'm just gonna pull this in here and copy it across. We can paste this straight into our Figma square here. And then now that we have this, that's actually pulled up the burger. So let me just make sure we're copying over our seafood one. So let's click download here once more. And I'm gonna put this in and copy it. And let's paste that straight in there. And I think that's loading just now. It's almost finished. I'm also going to give this square a bit of a border radius. So maybe something like 30 pixels should do. And let's paste that in. And for the seafood menu, I think we could also maybe give it a... Ooh, that came out way too big. So let's actually undo this thing, and let's resize this seafood menu here. And hopefully I can just paste it straight on top of our image here. I think, no, it's just pasting in. The other thing we can do is we can mask it. So if we've got a square like this one here on the right, we can right click and use as mask. And if we do that and select both items here, the one underneath will be the mask for the one on top. Let's give that a border radius as well. So I'm just going to simply move the seafood menu here on the right. And let's do this one as burger menu. And then we can have one here in the middle too. So this one for the middle, maybe I'll call this steak menu or meat menu. So let's actually type in steak in Unsplash here. And let's grab this one here. This one looks pretty good. I'm going to download this, and let's have a look. Yep. Great. Thank you. We're going to download this, and I'm going to put it straight into our design once it's downloaded. So here it is. I'm just going to give it a quick copy and a quick paste in here, and just give that a second to load because it is a quite high resolution steak. I can almost see the moisture coming off the steak there, but let's give it a mask, and then let's move it here and make it a little bit smaller so it fits in just nicely. Not too small, but just big enough for people to see. And let's call this steak menu. So that looks good. Burger menu, steak menu, seafood menu. So this makes up just a really quick, simple design. We can clean it up a little bit. We could, for example, add a little bit of a top line here at the top of our navigation just to give it a bit more color. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with that. There's lots of different ways you can customize this design to really make it look the way you want, but usually when you're doing things, you have to do it sort of by eye, but still fit into a nice column design so things are consistent. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick video on doing a website design UI. If you want more videos like this where I do UI in general, then let me know and I'll do more content like it. Otherwise, I hope you liked it. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.